Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of relocation. I am your host, Ben Cross, and welcome to 2022. It's a brand new year. Here we are. This is our first show of the year, and I thought it only right to bring someone on who I like to talk to about growth, development, change, and how to become a better person. I'm really feel blessed and fortunate to welcome our friend to the show, Denis Gianoutsos, CEO of Leading Change Partners. Denis, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome, Ben. Hey, Happy New Year to you and to your viewers. And what an awesome 2022 is going to be.
I hope so. I tell you what, Dennis, I'll be honest, I'm starting off on the wrong foot, man. I came down with COVID 5 days ago. Today is a great day. Honestly, I have like 10 times more energy than I had just 2 days ago. I mean, it was bad a few days ago, to be honest. But I'm very blessed and trying to take care of myself. And it really got me thinking as I was going through this existential crisis in bed alone in isolation while my family rang in the new year in the other room. And I was just thinking, I need to make some changes. I need to be a better. I mean, this is always the thought we have, but normally we don't have this thought on New Year's Eve. We have this thought on January 1st or January 2nd or something like that. But I'm like, I need to make some changes. I need to think about being a better person, personally, professionally, and all the phases of the game. And that's why I'm so excited I get to talk to you today, Denis.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think it's great that we get to talk about these kind of topics. Yeah, you got COVID. Okay, well, it's time for you to let go of that now and move on, right? And the thing here is that
I'm still in isolation, Denis.
I know, and it's hard, mate. And I know it's very hard. And there's I saw a quote yesterday that said, "Stay positive, test negative," and that's what you got to go for, right? You got to stay positive and move forward, and that it is. And it's easy for you and I to say it, but it's not always easy for everyone to do, right? And we get that, but yeah, this COVID has really shaken the world up in the last 2 years and sort of been that change catalyst for all of us. And it's really pushed things and things that we've been thinking about doing in life or been doing and thinking about business. It's really said, well, you're taking too long. So here we go. To spice it up, let's push it up and bring COVID in. And it's been interesting to see how businesses have reacted to it, but also how people have coped with it and react to it as well.
Yeah, and I want to talk about also how business and business people can cope with it and how we can lead through these disruptive times. I know that's one of your specialties in your coaching practice. And I want to hear more about your coaching practice and kind of give everyone kind of an entree out there. We've got people joining the program now. So I see you out there. Thank you on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube. Do me a big favor right now. Smash that like button right now. That lets us know we're doing a good job, that you can see us, you can hear us. Also, get in the comments. I missed y'all. We were dark for a couple weeks, and so it was great to be back here. So check in with us. Let us know how your New Year was. Send us a little New Year shout out. Let us know who you are, where you are, what in the world you're doing. We've got some of the usual suspects checking in here. It's so good to hear from everybody. Tim Quirk checking in. COVID-free Western New York here and excited. What's up, Tim? Stay positive, test negative. I'm going to adopt that, Denis. That's great. Stacy Huff, Happy New Year. This is a great show to kick off the new year, right, Stacy? Let us know what, are there anything that you want to work on, if there's, let's pick Denis's brain a little bit. Maybe he can give us some good advice, right? Let us know if there's something out there you want to work on. You got any questions for Denis? He is a professional coach and facilitator. Danny Herskowitz from Global Talent. What's up, Danny? Happy New Year. Excited for the show. Get in the comments. I want to hear from you. What is your New Year's resolution if you want to share it? Have you, even if you don't want to share it, have you kept it yet or have you broken it? It's January 4th already, right? We were talking about that before the show, right, Denis? What's January 4th all about for you?
Yeah, well, it's January the 4th for you, January the 5th for me in this part of the world where I'm in New Zealand, of course, and, we're already a day ahead and day 5. Come on. And there's already people who are already given up on their New Year's resolutions, right? I always put a quote out on the 2nd of January, and it goes along these lines, Ben, which is, "Dear New Year's resolution, it's been nice knowing you. Yours sincerely, 2nd of January." And what do I mean by that is that a lot of people give up on their New Year's resolutions straight away, or it gets a little bit too tough. And so That's not what we're here to talk about today. We're talking about how do we actually make 2022 an awesome year? How do we set it up for success? And how do we start thinking about what we need to do it? Because, as we said, it's day 4 for where you are in the world. And already people are like, oh, can't wait to 2023. Yeah.
Well, as you're coming to us from the future, maybe you can give us some, since hindsight's 2020, what do we need to do to really stick with these resolutions? I mean, it's funny, as human beings, instinctively, we know what the right thing to do is. The old joke about consultants is you hire them to tell you things you already knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know what to do. We all know we need to go to the gym. We all know we need to save more money. We all know we need to be kinder, gentler, whatever. What gets in the way for us, Dennis, and how do we get around that?
I actually think it's the 6-inch gap is what I call it, which is really between your ears. It's really how we look at things from a mindset perspective, an attitude perspective, that actually gets in our way. And what do I mean by this is that sometimes we may want to go off and do something in life and business and so forth, but we tend to start self-doubting ourselves or questioning ourselves or start thinking about, could I, should I, would I do this kind of thing? And I think at times it comes down to clarity. It actually comes down to 2 things: clarity and understanding where you're going. But I think the biggest thing is how do we help stay consistent? How do we help ourselves to move forward? And it comes down to the why. It comes down to our dream, our goal, our why. Because as you are in winter right now, what's going to make you get up at 5 a.m. in the morning on a cold morning? It's raining, it's snowing. What's going to get me up to get out there and do what I want to go and do? What's going to get me out there today when things get a little bit tough and I go, oh, should I be doing this? Well, what is your why? Because if you go back to the why and you're very clear on your why, that's the thing that's going to help you drive. That's the thing that's going to really help you move forward and get where you want to go to. And if that why is strong and it's clear, then it's really going to help. For those who don't have the why or not sure on what the why is or have clarity, the other ones that tend to sort of waver a little bit as well. So I would say to the people watching this and others maybe on a replay or whatever, is that be very clear on your why. That whole clarity is really, really important. And Ben, this is why between Christmas and New Year every year, I actually take time out to, 1, reflect on the year that's just been. And I ask myself 3 simple questions. And if the viewers haven't even done this, you might want to do this today or tomorrow in relation to the year that's just been. And 3 simple questions are, what went well? So what did I do really well, or what went well? Number 2 would be, what should I have done differently? Or what could I have done differently? In other words, that's a different way of saying what went wrong, right? There's a different way of saying that. And then the third one is, okay, what will I now do differently going forward? So it's really 3 simple questions to help you understand and get reflection. So that's number 1. The second thing that I do is set my goals for the year. So I actually have my goals set for 2022 before even 2022 starts. In other words, I have my year finished before I start it. And I think there are a lot of people right now who might be thinking, whoa, it's January the 4th. I haven't got my goals yet. What do I do? That's all cool. Take time out now to do something with your goals and start clearing and being very clear on what you're wanting to do in the year. But there is a trap for a lot of people. And I think the trap is we try and take on too much. And there is so much happening in life right now that we go and take on more things that we start becoming overwhelmed. And I always talk about 3 to 5 goals that you might want to do, and that's it. And be clear on what those goals are. Now, but what happens if I finish that goal within 2 months? Great, bring another one on board. That doesn't mean that you can't do that. But when I find that we have 20 goals, the old analogy of spinning plates, that's what starts to happen, is that people spin too many plates and then we achieve nothing.
So really, you're saying to kind of maintain no more than 3 to 5 active goals, and don't add one until you've retired one, basically.
Yep, that's right.
Just because our brain or our brain can't handle that many priorities. Is that kind of...
Yeah, it is. And if you talk to a lot of successful people, they'll always talk about when they focused on one thing and they did that really well. Then they did something else as well, right? That one thing could be a business idea. Then do it really well, get it underway. But if you've got a team around you, that's going to be really important as well, because you can probably take on more stuff too. But I just say, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple, 3 to 5 goals, but then knock those goals out of the ballpark.
I like this. And this is something as a leader that I might actually challenge my team to do too, is I might have my 3 to 5. I might say to them, hey, what are your 3 to 5? And I mean, is it something where we kind of come together and share that, or a goal, something so personal that they're not to be shared? Is it better to share your goals or not share your goals?
Well, it's interesting you say, I asked that question because there are a lot of people I kind of find quite are in business, but they will set goals for the business, but they don't set goals for themselves. And I'm like, what? And it's just, they don't do it for themselves, but they're happy to do it for their business. Now, for a lot of them, they don't actually do it because the goals actually get done to them. In other words, the business leader would set the goals and push it on them. What I'm actually saying, be proactive and set the goals that you might want to put in place for you personally, but also for you and your business. And if you're an employee, for you personally, and maybe what you do in your job, and share that what you do in your job with the boss, and then get your manager and you to actually just work through that. So to answer your question, yeah, I think you should set the goals with your team, but keep it simple for the team, because if we overcomplicate things, we won't achieve anything.
Yeah, we got some great people checking in here, and I want to hear what your thoughts are out there. If you're listening to this, I'd love to hear a comment from each of you. Don't forget, hit that like button. Also, we got people checking in here. Lynn Greenberg, CEO of Pivot. What's up, Lynn? How's it going? Happy New Year, team. Lynn, I see you got a show coming up soon that you're going to be on, so I'm checking that out. Lynn, I'd love to hear your thoughts on goal setting, since you do lead an organization personally and professionally. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Vinny Valverde, hi, Mobility family. Cheers from Portland, Oregon. Hope everyone had an incredible holiday season. Cheers to amazing 2022. Vinny, I love you. I hope all is well out in with your friends out in Colorado. I know that's hitting close to home for you. Love to hear your thoughts on goal setting as well. Carlene checking in. Hello from Houston. What up, H-Town in the house? It's great. We get some cold weather down here in Texas. Gianoutsos, happy 2022, Global Mobility Community. It's good to see Jana here. It's been great getting back with the team. I missed them so much. Mike Falia checking in a little late, but glad to see you back on the. Yep. Good to see you, Mike. I was thinking about you the other day, and as soon as I'm over this COVID thing, I'm going to start donating my plasma. So you got to remind me exactly what I'm supposed to go say and where I'm supposed to go to do that, because that's one of the silver linings here of getting COVID, is now I get to actually help other people who are getting it. So Dave Nelson, SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. I love this acronym. This was introduced to me when I was at Pods as a young sales supervisor. We paid a consulting company lots and lots and lots of money to come in and teach us snazzy acronyms like this. But I'll tell you what, this stuck. This is one day that stuck with me. Dennis, what do you think about this acronym? Is this something that you use in goal setting?
Yes and no. I mean, I think a lot of people hide behind this. They use this as an excuse at times, but if you do it really well, it becomes very, very effective as well. So it's whatever the acronym is, like the SMART goals is good. I actually like using SMARTer goals. In other words, the E and the R being the execution, and then the relevancy is the R. And I think if you've actually got something whereby you actually do things, it's a bit like being where people go and they want to have an action plan. I go, no, how about having a plan and action? They go, what do you mean? Well, because you can have an action plan, but it doesn't mean anything else until you do something with it and bring it to life. And it's the execution piece, and hence the E for the smarter side of things. And the R is around relevancy. Is it relevant for you as a goal, and is it relevant for the team as a goal, or is it just a nice to have, and then so what? So if it's relevant for people, I think it's really quite cool too. So yes, as Dave's saying there, it's really important to have SMART goals, but I don't let that. I always say to my clients that I work with, let's not get hung up about it. I think it's actually what we can do to move forward. But smarter goals would be even better. But I think there's even something else on top of that too. We can set goals, but how about becoming a goal achiever, making sure that we're achieving goals?
Ooh. It's a challenge in there. I like it. The one thing I do like about this SMART acronym, because I had a problem when I would set goals, like I want to be a better leader, right? I'd set a goal. I want to be a better leader, right? Well, is it specific? Is it measurable? Like how much of a better leader? How do you quantify results? How do you know if you've achieved it, right? So I want to lose weight. How much weight? By when?
Yeah.
Put a time on there, right? I think that's really critical. And so I would challenge people out there. One of the things is to be very specific in your goal setting, when, how much, and things like that. I think without those kinds of specifics, I think things can get lost a little bit.
Do you know, Ben, just what you're saying there is really interesting too, because, we like you say, I want to lose weight or I want to be a better leader. And even if you're sitting in a meeting with people as well, people make statements. And I go, And in my mind, I'm going, so what? What does that mean? And so here's the statement, right? So I'm showing here, it's actually been said, but there's no substance underneath. And I'm looking for what that substance is, just like the goal. I want to be a better leader. It's so broad and so big, but what does that mean for you? And that's what's really important. So I'm always asking that question to myself, and I'm always asking other people that same question. What does that mean? And so when I ask people, you want to be a better leader, okay, what does that mean for you? Then we can start to get into a little bit more detail and dive a little bit deeper into that. Because it's like, I want to be a great podcaster. I've got my own podcast that I run, I host. But what does it actually mean? And how I want to do it, and what I want to do is really important.
Yeah, shout out. Do you want to plug your podcast, Dennis, by the way, real quick,
sure.
just so people can check it out?
Well, maybe I should actually share why I started it. Should I do that?
Yeah, please. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the podcast is called Leadership is Changing. And so here I was in a global role with Hewlett Packard, and Ben, you and I met through Kerwin. So Kerwin and I used to be on the HR team together in the global side of things. And so I looked after the delivery of executive and leadership development for Hewlett Packard. And then we split into 4 different companies after that. And so what I was doing was the coaching, but more the facilitation side of things around the world. And they would bring me in to do some events with big teams and so forth. And shout out to Kerwin, yeah. And cool. And so what I found was, here I was traveling the world, and some years, I was traveling 40 weeks a year, which was pretty big. From a mobility perspective, they keep saying to me, come to the US to live. And I was like, what? Okay, we'll go to Singapore and live. And I really wanted to. And they said, where would you like to live in the US? Bay Area or Texas, where in Plano, where EDS used to be the company that was.
Yeah, right in my neck of the woods, right down the street. Get out of barbecue.
Yeah, there you go. You'll be pleased to know that I actually keep saying, I want to go to Texas. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I love the place. I mean, I was going to Plano, Texas probably 4 or 5 times a year. And I just loved it. And got some great friends there. And in fact, I was probably going to live in a little area called McKinney. Would that be right?
McKinney, right next door to me.
Oh, there you go. So it was either going to be Allen or McKinney, one of those 2 different areas there. And anyhow, long story short, about 8 years ago, my voice started to change. And if you think about it, my tool is the voice to do coaching and facilitation.
You seem a little old for your voice to be starting to change, Dennis. I'm just an observation.
Yeah, thanks, man. And so it started to change. And if you think about Tony Robbins, the motivational guy, right? His voice is quite hoarse. Well, mine was more hoarse than that. Long story short, they found a tumor on my left vocal cord.
Gosh.
And on my vocal cord, I was like, okay, my job's over, let alone my life's going to be over, right? And I'm like, what am I going to do? And so I had it removed 5 years ago. By the time they found out what it was, had it removed. And I was doing 3-day events, 5-day events, facilitation on stage. And it was really quite hard to get my voice out for it to be heard, for it to be clear as well. Had people coming up to me going, are you sick? I'm like, no. Oh, well, your voice is quite sexy. I'm like, oh, don't go there. And so it was quite interesting. And anyhow, they removed it 5 years ago. And the good news was it came back as being benign, came back as being non-cancerous, which was fantastic. So I felt like I'd been given a second chance at life.
Wow, God bless.
The other issue was that on the left vocal cord, it was sitting on the nerve. And so when they went in to take it out, when they removed it, it could have hit the nerve, and that vocal cord could have been paralyzed. So they would have had to build it out, pack it out, while the other one would close against it, only one. And so it was quite interesting. And they said that I would choke a lot. It's like, oh no. So they found that that was moving and it was okay. It was munted. But if they said to me, the brain will sort it out over time. And this is the thing for everybody to know, that when we're under stress and we're going through things, just know the brain will sort it out if you give it time. And so I gave it time, and I had to go and learn to speak again, to breathe again, which was quite interesting. But it taught me so much. And so that was interesting. So about a year after that, I decided to leave my global role and go and start my company called Leading Change Partners. And then when we all went into lockdown, March of 2019, I lost a lot of gigs around workshops because I couldn't do them. And so I decided to launch a podcast. If you think about the voice journey and think about my voice being heard, but then also helping other leaders' voices being heard by me interviewing them, or for the listeners and helping their voice being developed and growing and to grow, would be really quite cool. And I thought, oh yeah, this is all good. But it wasn't until I interviewed somebody in episode 98. So I've been at just over 18 months has gone live. And today, 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, tomorrow for you, episode 246 will come out.
That's
so
awesome,
I'm doing 3 episodes. Thanks, man. I'm doing 3 episodes per week, 2 interviews with leaders around the world and 1 freestyle. And when I interviewed this lady on episode 98, she said there's one thing to me. Dennis, I've known your voice from the past, and it's been the voice of silence. But now it's the voice of impact. And it just, even if I say that now, I just still get shivers all over myself just by saying that. And so that's why it's been really quite cool to use that and do that. So the podcast, great thing. I had some wonderful guests on it. And Kerwin's been one of my guests too, which has been pretty cool. And
Nice.
It's just been wonderful to have that episode, or that episode, but also the podcast, and for it to go where it's gone. The other thing it's taught me is this, that when we're in adversity, being COVID, and we're not sure where we're going, you can create things, you can do things if you set the goal and go for it. Now, the thing here with Ben, a lot of people will set goals and they know how to do it. Well, that's not a goal. To me, that's just a task. They just need to go and do it. A goal, if it's nice, big, hairy goal, and it's really quite big and it's quite scary for people, that's better. Why? Because that's going to really stretch you. That's going to really take you to areas where you haven't been before. And if you can get out of your comfort zone, that's where the magic happens.
So that's interesting. I want to stop right there because as you said something that's really eye-opening, right? Because as we're challenging people out there to set goals, and I want everybody to know, just going back to what Dennis said, he said set 3 to 5 goals. If you're just joining us now, hit that like button, get in the comments. I want to know what your thoughts are about what we're talking about. Is this something you're thinking about? Have you set your goals? If you want to share them, that'd be cool. If not, totally get it. I want to hear from you what your goal situation is and how you feel about them. If there's something you struggle with, let us know. Ask us questions. I've got a couple questions in the comments. We're going to get to all of them, I promise. But something you just said there, it's not a goal unless it's a big, hairy, scary thing you haven't done before. If it's something that you know how to do, it's a task. It's just like, oh, here's a laundry list of stuff I got to go do. It's not like, I'm going to accomplish something this year. So goals, I mean, is that an inherent, I mean, I know we talk about smarter, but is it smarter? Should the last one should be an extra S for scary? Does goals almost, it's not a goal unless it scares you. I mean, is that fair?
It's fair in the sense that, but a lot of people don't want to go there because it's really going to put them out of their comfort zone. But then there's, you've got to be realistic as well. I mean, there'll be things that people want to go and do. I mean, I want to go on the moon. I want to be on the moon tomorrow. It's a big goal, but will it actually happen for me this year? Probably not. Why? Because I'm not really an astronaut. I'm probably not built for the actual shuttle, to be honest. But it's all good. But the thing here is we've also got to be a bit realistic as well. But don't let that limit your thinking, because what I find is a lot of people I work with, when we do a review a year later, they've gone, if this is the goal, and I've gone here, the one thing that keeps coming up from them was they limited their thinking. And so try and get your thinking happening and growing and see where it takes you, which would be really, really quite interesting.
This is fun. This is great. We got people thinking out here. We're making an impact, Dennis.
Nice.
Voice of impact over here. Let's see. We got people chiming in here. Let's get to, oh gosh, we got some good stuff here. Jack Jampel, I see you out there. Happy New Year, my friend. Love to hear what your thoughts are on goals. Oh, this is good stuff. I'm going to work kind of backwards here. We got people. Richard Majewski says goals. I'd say set goals, but accept what you achieve and be happy. No point getting eaten up by them. Interesting perspective. What are your thoughts, Dennis?
No, I think
is it too soft or is it perfectly balanced?
Well, balance is probably the key there, right? And it's about having the balance as well. For a lot of people, they get upset at the fact that they're not achieving the goal or something's not going right for them. Patience is always a good thing. So I find that people want the thing quicker than they're actually, that it can actually come to them. Patience is really important, but at the same time, don't give up. Keep going and keep driving for it.
You know what I love about what Richard's approach here is the thing that you were saying is the 6 inches that gets us in the way the most, right? And it's the fear that lives in here, right? And so if we're taking the pressure off of the goal process, we can accomplish more than by having that driving. I think people think you have to beat yourself to the finish line, right? Like a thoroughbred horse or something,
Yeah, and I think the thing too, Ben, is that if you're not having fun doing it, then why do it? So, and I like what Richard said is about being happy with what you achieve, because I think you're going to be grateful for it as well, right? So that's good. And I think for a lot of us, it doesn't matter what we do in life. If we can learn from it and be a foundation for us to grow from it and move forward, I think that's going to be really important.
All right. One of my goals is to get new blinds because I'm getting some weird light here.
You're looking really cool there, actually, man. Is that a new look?
Yeah, that's a filter. We got filters now on StreamYard. Let's see here. Lynn Greenberg, a few of mine. And hey, everybody out there who's got the courage, by the way, to put your goals in the comments and just to be out there right now, you're satisfying that whole scary thing. And I'm loving it. Lynn saying a few of mine, doing more 360-degree feedback sessions, being more intentional and better communicator, making the most of everyone's strengths.
I love that. I like the intentional piece too. I think it's that's where it comes down to the why, but also, what your goal is. But what I was saying before. But I think also, what is your intent? What are you wanting to get out of this? And what is the intent for it? Because sometimes people want certain things, or they want to do certain goals, or set certain goals, but the intent isn't always right, and so there's not congruent. So, what is your intent? I think is really good. And the better communicator, spot on. There are so many people that can communicate. And there's a guy out there called John Maxwell. You would know him probably in the US more than the other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And he talks about everyone communicates, few connect. And it's the connecting piece which is really important, because what's going to happen now, it's a brand new year. Companies are going to come out with their strategy, and they're going to come out and they're going to go, ta-da, here's our strategy. And everyone's going to go, whoa, this is good. And then what they're going to do, Ben, is they're going to put it out on big PowerPoint slides up on the front of everybody and go, oh, this is awesome. Go out there and do it. And most people are going to go, huh? I don't even get it. Why? Because they haven't made it relevant for people. And so they've just talked at people rather than connecting with the audience. And when you see somebody connect with the audience and take people on the journey, that is magic. That is really, really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Connecting is so huge. And I love the fact that you made that distinction, because I'll tell you what, one of my pet peeves is the word communication. When someone says to me, communication is key, they have literally said nothing to me just now. And so when I hear better communicator, I love Lynn, and Lynn, this isn't about you specifically, but what does it mean, communicate? Does it mean to connect better? Does it mean to be more articulate? Does it mean to be more frequent in your communication? Does it mean to be more specific in what you actually mean and detailed? What does being a better communicator mean? So I would challenge a little bit with the smarter technique, right? And to be more specific, more measurable, right? In some of these things, right? How do we measure being a better communicator? What does that mean? Is it given to us in our 360 feedbacks where they're saying, hey, I don't understand the vision, or I don't know what my job description is? I mean, I'd love to know, how do you measure? And I guess I'll ask you, you're a communicator for a living. Dennis, how do I measure becoming a better communicator?
Well, I think maybe what even Lynn, for everybody, it's going to be different, right? So for Lynn, when she's put that up there, that means something for her. And it really depends on what she wants to do with it as well, just like anyone else probably watching this and outside of this. I think it always comes down for me, two things. Actually, three things. There we go. Three things again. Number one would be asking really good questions. If you can get really good at asking questions, that's really important, and listening to what people say, that's cool. Number two would be storytelling. If you can use storytelling and the power of storytelling and getting people to understand and go on the journey with you, that's how you connect with them really, really well.
So underrated. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, yeah. And then the third one was, doesn't matter what question you ask, doesn't matter what story you tell, if there's no relevancy and you linking that to make it relevant for people, they're not going to get it. And you'll see people whereby the light bulb will go on for them when you make it relevant for them through using storytelling or questions to help them get there where they need to get to.
Well, you actually just set up the perfect interaction with those 3 steps, because asking the right question, hey, what's going on, or what does that mean to you? Okay, identify their problem, where they're at, their point right now. Tell them a story that it reminds you of, so now you're connecting with it, and then making it relevant. So what I found from my story and what you're saying to me is X, and this is maybe something you could take away. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that's just a perfect model of an interaction right there. I love that idea.
Yeah, actually, I think.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I always use this analogy, and I don't know whether it's in the US, but for other parts of the world. Have you ever heard of an analogy called the best thing since sliced bread? Have you ever heard of that?
Oh yeah, we love slicing bread over here all day.
So there's a terminology or analogy out there people can use called best thing since sliced bread, and you go, well, what do they mean? Well, what they mean is that this idea or this invention is the best thing since sliced bread, and if you can get people to part of your communication for you to connect with them and make it relevant for them. But if you can ask questions and the idea comes from them, it's way better. Because you see, if the idea comes from you, they go, oh, yep, they're the leader. But if the idea comes from them as individuals, it's the best thing since sliced bread. It's the same with those who've got kids. Their kids are the best. Right. And so if your ideas are great, that's really cool. And that's how you can become a better communicator and really help things by getting them to be linking it, making it relevant for them, but also if they come up with the idea, it's the best thing since sliced bread.
And they came up with the idea solves their problem, not your problem, right? Because I think a lot of times the goals that are pushed down from the top serve the organizational's needs or the board's needs or the shareholder needs, but the people that were pushing them to, like, yeah, but how does that serve my need? Nobody, people aren't asking me what I need, and so super, super cool stuff. Here, moving on here. Let's move on to Valerie's comment here. Happy New Year. I'm not doing goals, just focusing on removing my expectations of others and controlling the controllables.
Oh, I like that one. Controlling the controllables. That's awesome. I think, Ben, what we saw when COVID hit a lot of us, a lot of people, in a sense of the pandemic around the world, a lot of people felt like they were out of control. Because it was being done to us. None of us wanted COVID. None of us wanted that pandemic to happen. But then, what happened is that a lot of people started to worry about it, and it was the ambiguity, the adversity, the unknown. And it's a territory they've never been in before. And so for a lot of people, they try to control it. And this is what I always say to people. There's 2 things you should do. One is just understand we can't control everything, but 2 things you can control. One is our attitude, goes back to that 6-inch gap again, and the way we react to things. And number 2 is where we're going next. That's what we can control. And that's what we should look at, is where we're going next for sure. So I think controlling the controllables is really, really quite important.
And I like the removing expectations of other people, because let's be honest, whenever we get pissed off at something somebody does, it's because we expected them or wanted them to do something and they did something else. And I say the root of unhappiness is expectation, because we put expectation. Listen, like this past Christmas, right? This past Christmas holiday, me and my wife had these enormous expectations. We had family was going to come in. We were going to do all these things. It was going to be beautiful. We were bringing all these people in. Then her family couldn't get here until after Christmas because of their grandmother. And then they got here, and then New Year's, and I get COVID. So now I'm in like sequestered in a back room, and family members aren't getting along, and all of a sudden, like, worst Christmas ever. Well, was it, or was it just our expectations were to have this Hallmark version of Christmas, and we thought we were trying to control uncontrollables, right? To use both of Valerie's analogies here. And I think that but if we would have stepped back and had no expectations, we would have realized, hey, we have our family together, even though I feel like I'm dying for a couple of days. I didn't die. And, we're still pretty dang blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key word that Valerie has here is the word my. right? So removing my expectations of others, because you see, we might have expectations, but that's not what people they may not be wanting to do that, or they may not have that expectation. So it's getting quite clear in there and working with them to understand where they want to go.
For sure. Let's see what Vinny's saying. Vinny's over at UPS here, and Vinny said, we had a team meeting late last year where we all shared our goals, personal and business. Interesting. Great way to encourage and stand behind each other. What do you think about encouraging personal goal setting and sharing personal goals in the workplace?
Yeah, why not? I mean, if it's relevant and it makes sense, yeah, why not? And I like what Vinny's saying there, that the fact that they're supporting each other, standing behind each other, which is really good. So, I always ask people, do you have the right people around you? Yeah, I do. But then when they go away and think about it, they go, no, I don't. And I think the important thing here is to encourage and stand behind each other and support each other is really important. Because if you've got people who've got your back, then that's really good, and you feel more confident. You can go off and do it. And I think the other thing too there, Ben, is another word is great way to encourage and stand behind each other and probably hold each other accountable to what we're actually saying that we're going to go and do, but in a constructive way.
I love it. And if you just tune in right now, hit that like button right now. We're with Denis Gianoutsos here, who is a world-renowned coach and facilitator. And we're talking about setting goals for 2022 and beyond, personal goals, professional goals. We're talking about leadership. We're talking about all of it. Right now, we're talking about our own, goals that we've set, or the people, people are chiming in with goals that they've set and how they go about their goal process and their philosophy on that. And we're just kind of unpacking some of those different things and sharing those. So if you're watching this right now, nothing would make me more happy than if you got involved in the conversation, in the comments, because this show really is about y'all, honestly. You're talking about the why, Denis. Honestly, I'm sitting in my bed 2 days ago. I'm kind of having a freak out. I'm like, I got COVID. I don't know how long it's going to last. I can't sleep. I'm getting like 0 to 3 hours of sleep at night. I'm having problems. And I'm looking at my week, and I got you on the schedule. It means a lot to me. I got Thursday, we got a really important charity thing that we're doing with Danny Herskowitz and some really cool stuff. And we've got some important client meetings. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do any of this, And honestly, some people were like, just reschedule it all. Yeah. But my why was, I felt like we have an obligation to the community. There's people that tune in at 4:00 Eastern that want to see this. They tune in, and it's part of the community, And honestly, like, yeah, do I get a ton of value out of doing these things? Yeah, I do. But I do it for the people who tune in and for the community, And I just felt like I had an obligation, if I was able to, and if it didn't compromise anything, to go through with it. And praise God, I was able to kind of get healthier and able to be here today with all of you out there. So if you're able to be here with us, go ahead and get active in there. Ask a question. I'd love to hear one. We've got Danny Herskowitz here. My buddy Danny over there works with me on the Glomo talent side. He has a question. He says, Denis, do you have any advice on daily goals? Yeah, we've been talking macro kind of yearly goals, but what about daily goals? How many goals do you suggest someone should have per day? How do you work daily?
Yeah, I mean, there's just a terminology. Are we talking about goals or are we talking about tasks? Because they're two different things, right? I mean, goals are, like you say, is the macro. It's the big thing. It's the thing that's set in cement is the goal. But the action plan and the things we do on a daily basis will be in sand. And so they will move depending on what we want to do. I find that, and I don't know whether Danny's going here, but a lot of people have massive to-do lists. And it's in the title. To do. It doesn't mean you're going to get it done, right? So it's about, it should be a what do I need to get done today list, right? And it's about the execution piece. So I think if Danny's talking about what do I need to do on a daily basis and do that, yeah, there could be a lot of things. But if it's 30 things again, it's hard. If you've got 3 main key things that you want to get done today, then get those done. But that's you personally. For those of you who've got teams around you, they may have their own things that they want to get on with as well. I think there's this thing here out there that we're trying to be everything to everybody, and we can't be everything to everybody all at once, right? And so we're having to make sure we delegate well, we find things that we need to focus on. And I would say, going back to what Danny's saying here around goals, for a lot of us, there's so much noise out there. Emails, meetings, we run from email to email, meeting to meeting, and we get overwhelmed. And so then whether it being 1 goal or 3 goals or 10 things you want to get done in a day, you're overwhelmed and you probably won't get much done. And so I would highly recommend that people simplify things and make things a little bit easier, and maybe just focus on 3 things for the day.
Yeah, I want to talk about this. I actually have a cool little trick here, but before I do that, I see Dan Cross from Tulsa. That's my dad. Dad, before you tune out, he's usually good for a couple minutes. I love you, Dad. Thanks for tuning in, man. Appreciate that so much.
That's so awesome.
Everybody give my dad a heart. Throw a heart for him out there. Means the world to me, Dad. You check in and watch these things. Hey, Danny, I got one for you. So I was taught this when I was about 26 years old. I was getting so overwhelmed at work, and we had a project manager who was assigned basically to chill me out and get my head screwed on straight, right? So he stopped by my desk, and his name was Chad. And Chad brought a little notebook, right? And he was super methodical, and I was so the opposite. And he gave me this technique, and I'm gonna be real quick with it. He said, write down everything you need to do today. And I wrote it down. He's like, where's your lunch break? And I was like, oh, super important. Let me get that in. He's like, what about your bathroom break or, time to smoke cigarette? Well, where's your breaks at? Oh, put those in there. Is that everything? Yeah. What about where's your checking email? You're going to do that, right? Yeah, I am. Okay. Put that in there. Put it in a few times. So I dumped. It was a brain dump. Put it right on the paper. Just list everything. It was probably 15 things. I don't know. And then he said, okay, rank these in order of priority. And I was like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, rank them in order of 1 to 15 or whatever. And then he said, okay, now 1 over from that is how long will each of these take you? And I put it in portions of an hour, right? So, 15 minutes would be 0.25, half an hour would be 0.5, 60 minutes would be 1.0, right? Hours. I did that, added it up, because my thing was I don't have enough time in the day to finish all these things, right? So what he showed me when I put all the times next to all the things that I said I had to do, absolutely including lunches, breaks, and everything, I had 7.25 hours of work in an 8-hour day. And when I prioritized them, and so what it did is when I prioritized them as a person who's very scatterbrained and can go in a lot of different directions at all the time, I literally just worked the list. And as I felt my mind wander, I would just go right back to the list and be like, where am I? And then I would start crossing off. And the other cool thing about that is if you need to leave work early and you need to leave work at 4:30, work the list to 0 and leave at 4:30, leave at 4 o'clock. Or if you know you have to leave at noon because you're having a half day or whatever, you got something urgent you have to do. That's when I would pick what are the 3 things? What is the one thing? Everybody's got one thing. Everybody's got one thing that I have to do this thing today. If I don't do this thing today, I'm going to get fired. But if I do this thing today, I could probably sneak out the back door and I live to fight another day, right? And so get that one thing done if you only have one thing you can do. So I would say use that method. I don't know if people copied that or not, but if you have questions about that, hit me up offline. But I taught my team that because everybody I've worked with has always felt overwhelmed. Nobody has enough time in the day. And it's just great. And then the next day you walk in, you grab that piece of paper. If there's anything left on it, you just roll it to the next day. Right, Dennis, see where I'm going. And then there you go.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is that a lot of people go, oh, but I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to create it. And I'm like, well, yeah, you can use that as an excuse because that is just an excuse. So the thing I always say to people is, and I actually get them to do a 1-hour session per week. And I get them to think about what's coming up for them and so forth. And the thing here that's really important is if you can go back into it and actually have a plan and then put the action in, then you're okay. You know where you're going. You imagine you're going on your next flight and the air crew are walking through the gate there where you're standing and they're going, I'm not sure where we're going to go today. We're going to take off, turn to the left and see where we end up the next 45 minutes to an hour. You wouldn't feel very confident. But nor will your team feel very confident about you as a leader, as a person, if you're not actually thinking about things and planning things and then taking massive action to put it in place.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And I think any methodology, you'll see that any successful, high-performing executive team organization have systems and processes in place. And they do that and they do it on a regular basis. But there's a key word. Well, there's actually 3 key words that I use. Discipline, focus, and here's the big kicker. Consistency. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're not consistently doing this, that's what the key is. When I launched that podcast, the guy that was mentoring me says, you're going to do 1 a week, 2 a week, or 3 a week. How many do you want to do? Because whatever you choose, You can't go back from that. You can always go up, but you can't go back from it. You've got to stay consistent. Why? Because just like this show here, right? The reason you got up out of the bed to be on this show is because you know that people are wanting to watch it. So there's the consistency piece as well. So the number of goals you've got, I try and keep it simple. I know I'm going to do those 3 things. As soon as I've done one, I can bring another one up, the 4th one, right? Another one done, I can bring another one up. I can keep going as I need to go. But I think whatever the system is, be consistent with it and make sure you use it.
You know, I got to ask you, why can't you go back? Because I'm struggling with this. Because this is what I'm going to do this year, right? So, well, I said this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm toying with here. And I know what you just said is people don't like to, when you don't have it planned out, but it's something I can work on. Year 1. So this is my 3rd year doing Love and Relo, right? It's incredible. Where's the time
Awesome.
gone, right? We started literally January 4th, probably of 2020. Banged out that year doing 5 a week, pretty much. With the odd exceptions. Sometimes we did 6, actually. I remember one week we did 6. And then last year, the team's like, listen, we need to ratchet this back to 4. You need to take Fridays off. We're all getting burnt out. You're running out of stuff talking. Nobody likes you that much anyway. And then this year, we're like, you know what? 3 might be the number right now, especially with all the obligations I got going. So I find myself ratcheting it back. But as a fellow podcaster and as a goal setter and as a coach, what are your thoughts on that? Candidly.
It's a really good question. And can you go back? Of course you can. Do whatever you want. That's you set your own expectations. But I think the important thing here is you decide what you're wanting to do. I just found from my credibility, because you see it's the know you, like you, and trust you kind of thing. So you've already got that. You've already built that. That's the credibility is already there, right? So maybe you can bring things down. Or the team can still do things 5 days a week, but you just have some pre-recorded, or you just take some things and actually then turn around and utilize the kind of information you've already done before in a different type of format. But you know what? It's whatever you're wanting to commit to doing, right, Ben? I mean, I just found for me, I just want to stay at 3. There was times that I just wanted to stop. The number of people who want to start a podcast, and I'm like, are you really sure? And they're, oh, yeah, I want to do it. The average is they don't get past 7 episodes.
Right.
Right?
Can I tell you, every time I see a podcast pop up, I look at it and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to see you in 3 months.
Exactly. Exactly.
Know.
And every time I see a new leader come up, the same thing. Every time I see a new business come up, I go, how long are they going to be there? And so they have to keep going. And it's a bit like what Mike was saying about being a grinder and getting out there, making things moving forward. That's the thing that's going to be really important. But then take yourself out of the picture. Because for me, it's not about me. It's about the audience. It's about what they want and what they need. And it's about what I can do for them. And if they're telling me they want it, great. What I found was that people were saying, well, I can't believe you're doing so much. It's just like, wow. And I'm like, that's all good. You just choose, but I can't keep up. I go, no, you don't need to listen to every episode. You go and choose whatever you want. It's a bit like a non-fiction book. You don't need to read it.
Some people get upset when they can't listen to all. I can't listen to all. I'm like, I don't. My family doesn't listen to all of them. My mother doesn't listen to all. Nobody listens to all of them, right? I wouldn't listen to me either. If I wouldn't talk it, I wouldn't be tuning in sometimes, right? I get it, So yeah, people. What do you think about that though? When people say like you're doing too much, what do you think?
Compared to what?
Exactly. Well, you get people to say that. I mean, you're a high achieving person. You've done a lot of incredible things in your career. And I mean, especially going back when you talk kind of about your before your tumor and everything and your travel schedule and just the things you were pulling off all the time. Where do people ever say, Dennis, gosh, you're doing too much?
Yep.
What'd you say to that? What'd you think about that?
Compared to what? That's what I say. And then I go, depending on what your why is. My why is this. And they're like, whoa, okay, I get it. And I go, but you know what? There's things that you think I might be doing a lot. But in the background, I've got this balance. And they're going like, oh, so there's a perception out there that I'm doing a lot, but I'm not always doing a lot. So I have my planning so good that for every half hour of the day, I know what I'm doing. And do I stick to it 100%? No. Why? Because I'm a human being just like everyone else, right? So we do it. But you know what? With structure comes flexibility. And with that structure, I can actually understand where I'm going, what I'm wanting to do. And so I find for me that if I can put that in place And instead of the tail wagging the dog, I'm the dog wagging the tail, and I'm taking control, and I know how to react to it, my attitude, but I also know where I'm going next. That's how I handle it. So what I find is that those who are very successful, high-performing people, they have processes and systems in place, and they do that, and they do it very well. But they also need help from somebody like a coach to give them clarity, challenge them on their thinking, to help them move forward, to be the best that they can be in their industry.
See, I always felt like when people would say you're doing too much, that they're not doing enough.
And that they're not doing enough, or you're not doing
it. They're not doing enough, and then they're projecting that on you. And you brought up a great point too. And the second thing I would say to that is that they're assuming you're doing all the things that they're doing and all the stuff that they see on top. And you're just like, no, I found a way to not have to do as much of that other stuff. Check email and administrative and, whatever. You figure that out. And then you could do the other high value kind of things that, yeah.
There's a great book out there that's come out probably the last sort of year, a guy called Dan Sullivan, and it's called Who, Not How. And I think it's a great book for not only entrepreneurs to read it, but also for leaders. Too many of them go, oh, how am I going to get this done? Or how am I going to do that? And that's why they try and keep their goals smaller. And it's not about that. It's about who can I get to come in and do those pieces. And for some leaders, they're too scared to let go. I'm like, you know what? Get out of your own way, because you're actually holding things back. You're holding the organization back. We call it the law of the lid. John Maxwell talks about the law of the lid, right?
The law of the lid. The law of the lid.
Lid on a trash can, if you can think about it, or the lid of the organization. No one can go past this lid, because this lid is really your leadership skills, your capability.
Dennis, you haven't seen my trash can, okay? The lid never stops me, Dennis, okay?
It's just an analogy and metaphor. So what we need to do is we need to lift your lid, your skills, your capabilities, your ability to do things, your thinking, lift that to create a vacuum for everyone else. But you're so right in what you're saying there, Ben. Sometimes I think it's people's perceptions, it's their thoughts. In fact, sometimes it goes back to the previous comment someone made before. I think, I'm not sure who it was, but it was about other people's expectations. That's their expectations for me, right? Sorry, I got to do what's right for me. Yeah. And so if you can do that and be very clear on where you're going, that's going to be really important.
Well, and I liked what you said too about people, one of the bigger hindrances of people not setting big, hairy, scary goals is they're afraid that they can't accomplish them, or that it's going to be too difficult, or it's going to stretch them in a way, or that they don't have the resources and the time. So they don't dream. They fail to stretch and reach. And it's like, but if we stretch and reach and lift the lid and create a vacuum, I love the word vacuum, because you can just feel the pull, right? You feel the pull of a vacuum. And all the people rising up underneath you to take on that responsibility. Because you look in organizations, what do high potential people want? They want opportunity. They want an opportunity. They want challenge. They don't want to be stuck in a dead end job doing the same thing, making the donuts for 20 years. They want to be challenged, and they want to rise up, and they want to get bigger titles and get more experience and get bigger teams. And so if we fail to strive as leaders, then we fail to serve the people who support us, right? It's just.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the thing, we've got this thing out there now that people are calling it the Great Resignation, right? It's quite interesting to see that over lockdowns, people have gone and reskilled themselves. So now they've gone off to go and do other things in their careers. But you know what? I'm meeting executives who they're bored in their role. For the last 12 months, 18 months, they said to me, I've actually been bored in my role. I go, okay. But the last 12 months, 18 months, you've been taking your salary every month, haven't you? Yeah. But you're not really giving your A game, are you? No. Okay, so what do you want to do? And for some of them, it's now thinking about COVID's actually rocked their life a little bit for them to think about, do I really want to be doing this corporate world, or do I really want to go and do something else? If I work for this organization, do I want to go and get a bigger role? Cool. So that's a scale thing. So how do we help them do that? Or if they're already in this organization, do they want to come down into this organization, so lower the scale, but maybe take on a more senior role? And then there's the other piece where people are going, you know what, I just want to go out there and do my own business today. I just want to go and start doing something. And so helping them get clarity around where they're wanting to go and where they want to, how they want to put that in place, I think it's really been quite cool.
Yeah, you're right. And this speaks to it. Tim Quirk, is a friend of mine who's a new entrepreneur. he started his business about a year ago. It's taking off fantastically. I'm so thrilled for this guy. You know, when you see good people just taking steps
Yeah.
and doing good, and it just makes you so happy inside. He says, I read last night that an average lifespan is 4,000 weeks. When I look at it that way, I realize there's only time in life for the important stuff. Right on. Right on.
Yeah. And then so many people spend so much time in front of the TV.
Yeah.
And, you know, it depends what you want
I'm
in life.
guilty
It
of
depends,
that.
it depends on what the why is. It depends on what your intent
Mhm.
is. It really depends. But you know what? If we've all got the same amount of time, it's just how we use them and what we do with them to make it count, depending on whatever that means for you.
Yeah. My dad actually asked a question here. I want to make sure I get to it. Dad says, what are the chief obstacles to delegation? So as we're lifting the lid and stretching as executives and leaders to do big, hairy, scary things, and now we have the people that have to come up under us to take all this responsibility on. How do we delegate that? That was always something I struggled with.
I think when people sort of struggle with delegation, one is they don't know that they're struggling with delegation. All they tell me is that they're overwhelmed. There's so much to get done. I go, well, look in the mirror. There's your
Is that
obstacle.
synonymous? Overwhelmed, struggle with delegation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I go, look in the mirror. And they go, what do you mean? I said, there's the obstacle. How many of you go to the same meeting where 2 or 3 of your staff are at the same meeting? Oh, yep, I do. Okay. So what kind of message do you think you're sending your staff without you saying anything? And what comes back is, you don't trust me. So in other words, you're coming to the meeting and you're not trusting me. I'm at the meeting already. So I always say to people, hey, do you really need to be in these meetings, or can you delegate those? The second thing is, can you trust the people you've got? And if so, delegate more to them. But then I ask people, where you are as a leader today, how did you get there? Well, I got given these projects to do and I got given these opportunities and things like that. Well, then why are you taking those opportunities from the others? Let them do it as well. So in other words, delegate to them. But sometimes it's just easier for me to get it done because I can get it done real quick. I get that. But then what are we trying to do here as people? We're trying to not just give them the fish. We want to teach them how to fish. And so if we can do that on a regular basis, that's really good. So to go back to your dad's question, which is brilliant, the obstacles around delegation is you as an individual letting go. But then here's the other thing that people should do. If you do delegate people and they go off and do a piece of work, spend time to debrief with them afterwards. Ask those 3 reflection questions I said before, right? What went well? What could you have done differently? And what will you do differently now going forward? And get them to grow from it, because it's a foundation and we can build on that foundation and grow from these kind of different examples. So I think it's our obligation as leaders to actually delegate more and allow people to do what they need to do.
How do we do it in a way that doesn't feel like we're just shrugging something off, or maybe they're ill prepared, right, to do it, or they feel like we're handing it off to them because we don't want to do it?
Yeah. I mean,
because not all projects are fun and sexy projects, right?
No.
Not everything they go home and tell the spouse, hey, you wouldn't believe my boss let me do today, right? Like,
yeah, I think there's going to be things at times that need to get done, right? But there's things, if the leader or the boss or the person understands their people really well, what's the thing that makes Ben tick? What is the thing that makes Ben really passionate about things? Then I want to try and give him that kind of work if I can. And the other thing too is I want to set Ben up for success by asking him the questions, maybe sharing the story with him about the journey, about why we're doing this. This is the same as strategy in an organization as going on about before. Many people don't understand the strategy. They can't tell me what the strategy of the organization is. Why? Because it's been pushed down their throat by somebody and they haven't been on the journey with them, hence storytelling and so forth. Then some organizations, they get quite smart with the strategy. What do? They put it on big, big posters and they laminate it. Why? Well, because it's really important. And so they laminate this and they put it in the kitchen area where you make tea and coffee, hoping that you'll read it, but people don't. And so delegation's the same. How do we get people to buy into it? How do we get them to do things and do projects and so forth? But they understand the bigger picture and why they're doing this and why it's important, then they can buy into it. In other words, if they don't understand the relevancy of it, then they're not always going to be buying into it, and we've got to set them up for success.
Yeah, and if they don't latch on to the project or the delegation of the task, I'd ask them why. Because to your point, they're not buying in, or maybe they don't think you're going to act on their, maybe you're asking them to do something, but you're not going to act on it. It's not going to be important. Real quick, I want to just honor some people that have made some cool little comments here. David Yakum, who I used to work with years ago. I've been making goal lists for the past 10 years and checking my list quarterly and update. These are both professional business goals. I've only had 1 year I completed all of them. However, my goals are like a navigation system. As long as I follow the route, I'll make it to the end. However, there are bump storms, but I keep on trucking. Awesome. And Kathy had something really cool here. Deal with challenges. The way we reach our goals is to face our challenges. Excuse me here. I forgot I had COVID for a second. Working through these issues is the only way we change, and we become better people when we overcome them. Focus on an aspiration. We lose interest in life. We have nothing to work towards. Find something challenging that you want to accomplish and bring it to the world.
Set a deadline, knowing when we want our goals accomplished, and help us stay focused, engaged, and interested in our story. Well, this is the thing. It goes back to the why again. If we don't actually understand the why or the purpose and what we're doing here, there it is. There's people will lose interest and they don't want to do it anymore. But you know what? They get stuck in that rut and they stay there for another year, 2 years, thinking, oh, should I go out and do something else? If it's not working for you, then move. Go do something else. Go and find that thing that you're wanting to do, and that's going to be of passion. Because going back to the comment before, we've only got so many thousands of hours in our lifetime, right? So let's make it count.
Thank you for taking over the hosting duties there. I appreciate that, Dennis. I needed that.
It's all good.
It was funny. Before I said, Dennis, if I just start coughing uncontrollably, just take over, okay? Would you? You did great. Jack says, many times being told you are doing too much. They may see something you are not seeing about yourself. Jack, if that's for me, hit me up. Let me know.
No, but that's a very good point that Jack's saying, right? The thing is, you've got to take whatever people say is in a grain of salt, and then sit back and actually reflect on it and actually understand what does that mean for me, and goes back to that question again, right?
Dennis, this has been a really, really great conversation. Did you have a final thought that you want to leave people with?
Yes, thank you. It's been a real pleasure being on the show with you. I think what you're doing, Ben, is fantastic. Keep going, man. It's exciting. And I know at times that, we do things, but people do love watching things like this with you and learning from you and others as well. So good on you. I think what I would say to people is this: 2022 can be a massive year for you, and it should be a massive year for you. Yes, there's been all sorts of things happened in our life, but always think about your attitude, the way you react to things, and about where you're going next. Because if you can be that connector for people, if you can be out there asking great questions of yourself and others as well, then go ahead and do that. But I tell you this, people are looking for strong leadership. The world needs strong leadership. We're looking for leaders who can stand up and will stand up and make an impact. And so be the voice of impact. Go out there, be match fit, get as fit as you can. Go out there and have that voice of impact and be an executive that has influence with people, and then make the best thing out there that you can. Because the slice of bread always tastes a lot better when you go out there and make it really good for people. So, and the other big thing I would say to people is, whatever you're doing, have fun with it. You've got to have fun. Otherwise, why do it?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thanks, everyone, for being here with us today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We wouldn't have a show if we didn't have viewers and community and participants. So I love the conversation. Y'all were amazing, all-star rock stars in the comments there. Dennis, what an honor. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben, for asking me. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, awesome. Denis Gianoutsos, Leading Change Partners. Follow him on LinkedIn. Also, check out his live stream on LinkedIn and on Facebook and YouTube. I know you'll enjoy it as much as I do. And if you need executive coaching, he's available as well. So check him out for that. So, hey, everybody, tune in Thursday. I've got a very special show with Chai Lifeline. It's a charity that we're supporting with Danny Herskowitz, our dear friend and my partner with Glomo Talent. It's a children's cancer charity. Some really powerful, moving, personal stories around that. And we're going to be doing some really big things to support that. Maybe we'll even raise $10,000. And Danny's gonna be running a marathon, so that's gonna be crazy. So
Ooh.
tune in Tuesday. I hope to see you all there. Hit that like button. Throw a little love down to our friend in New Zealand, Dennis here. Denis Gianoutsos, everybody. Thank you. Take care.